It was a typical Tuesday afternoon when my world shattered. I had just returned home from a long day at work, the kind that leaves you drained and yearning for the comfort of familiarity. As I tossed my keys onto the kitchen counter, I noticed my wife, Sarah, sitting on the couch, her face illuminated by the glow of her phone. She was scrolling through social media, a habit I had come to accept as part of our modern lives. Little did I know, that moment would mark the beginning of my descent into a nightmare. I poured myself a glass of water and settled into my favorite chair, glancing over at her. She looked happy, her laughter ringing out as she tapped away at her screen. I smiled, thinking how lucky I was to have her. But as I leaned back, my eyes caught a glimpse of her feed. A post appeared, and my heart dropped. It was a picture of her, arms wrapped around another man, both of them beaming with joy. The caption read, "Living my best life with my favorite person. #blessed." I felt the air leave my lungs. The room spun, and I struggled to process what I was seeing. My mind raced, searching for explanations, rationalizations. Maybe it was just a friend? Perhaps they were just being playful? But deep down, I knew. The way she looked at him, the intimacy in their poses, it was undeniable. I was being betrayed, and the realization hit me like a freight train. I stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. "Sarah?" I called out, my voice trembling. She looked up, her smile fading as she noticed the expression on my face. "What's wrong?" she asked, her tone shifting from carefree to concerned. I couldn't find the words. Instead, I pointed at the screen, my finger trembling as I gestured toward the post that had just shattered my reality. Her eyes widened, and for a moment, silence enveloped us. I could see the gears turning in her mind, the panic rising as she realized what I had discovered. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered, but I could hear the cracks in her voice. The denial felt hollow, and I could sense the weight of her guilt hanging in the air. "Not what it looks like?" I echoed, my voice rising in disbelief. "You're in a picture with another man, Sarah. How can you say that?" The anger bubbled up inside me, a mix of betrayal and confusion. I had trusted her, believed in our love, and now it felt like everything was crumbling around me. As she scrambled to explain, I felt a wave of emotions crashing over me, anger, sadness, humiliation. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, on being there for her through thick and thin. And yet, here I was, standing in my own home, feeling like a stranger in my life. The laughter that had once filled our space was replaced by a suffocating silence, and I could feel the walls closing in. I turned away, needing to escape the reality of the moment. I walked to the window, staring out at the world that continued to spin while mine had come to a halt. I could see our neighbors going about their lives, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within my heart. I felt exposed, vulnerable, as if the entire universe was watching me unravel. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about me and Sarah anymore. It was about the public humiliation that came with her betrayal. The thought of our friends and family seeing those posts, of them knowing what she had done, sent a chill down my spine. I had always believed that love was sacred, something to be cherished and protected. But now, it felt like a cruel joke, played out for the world to see. As I stood there, grappling with the reality of my situation, I knew I had to confront her. I had to understand how this had happened, how the woman I loved could betray me so openly. But deep down, I also felt a flicker of something else, an ember of rage igniting within me. I couldn't just let this go unnoticed. I had to make sure everyone knew the truth. The silence in the room was deafening, punctuated only by the distant sounds of life outside. I stood by the window, my heart racing, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. Betrayal felt like a heavy weight pressing down on my chest, squeezing the breath from my lungs. I had always considered myself a rational man, someone who could navigate the complexities of life with logic and reason. But in that moment, all I could feel was the raw, visceral pain of being deceived. As I turned back to face Sarah, I was struck by the sight of her, my wife, the woman I had shared my life with for nearly a decade. She looked small and fragile, her eyes wide with fear and regret. I wanted to scream, to unleash the torrent of emotions that had been building inside me, but instead, I felt a strange numbness creeping in. How could she do this to me? How could she betray the vows we had taken, the promises we had made to each other? Memories flooded my mind, each one a reminder of the love we had built together. I remembered our wedding day, the way she had looked in her white dress, radiant and full of hope. I recalled the laughter we shared during our travels, the quiet moments spent curled up on the couch, and the dreams we had woven together. Each memory felt like a dagger, twisting deeper into my heart as I realized how easily she had thrown it all away. "Why, Sarah?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you do this?" The question hung in the air, heavy with the weight of my disbelief. I needed answers, but I also needed to understand how she could justify her actions. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words seemed to catch in her throat. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said, her voice trembling. "It was just a moment of weakness. I never wanted to hurt you." A moment of weakness? The phrase echoed in my mind, a bitter reminder of how easily she had dismissed the gravity of her actions. I felt anger bubbling up again, threatening to spill over. "A moment of weakness?" I repeated, incredulous. "You shared your life with someone else, Sarah. You flaunted it on social media for everyone to see. How can you call that a moment of weakness?" Tears streamed down her cheeks, and for a fleeting moment, I felt a pang of sympathy. But it was quickly overshadowed by the anger and humiliation that coursed through me. I had always been the one to support her, to lift her up when she was down. And now, I felt like I was the one being crushed under the weight of her betrayal. As I paced the room, my mind raced with thoughts of how this would affect our lives. The public nature of her infidelity gnawed at me. I could already imagine the conversations that would unfold among our friends and family. The whispers, the judgment, the pitying looks, they would all be directed at me, the husband who had been publicly humiliated. I felt like a character in a tragic play, my life laid bare for the world to see. I stopped pacing and turned to her, my heart pounding. "Do you even understand what you've done? This isn't just about us anymore. You've put our entire relationship on display for everyone to judge. How can I ever trust you again?" Her face crumpled, and she shook her head. "I know I messed up. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I thought I could keep it a secret, but then I got carried away. I didn't think about the consequences." The words felt hollow, like a feeble attempt to justify the unjustifiable. I wanted to believe her, to find a way to forgive her, but the betrayal was too fresh, too raw. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, staring into the abyss of our shattered relationship. As I looked into her eyes, I saw a mixture of regret and fear. But I also saw something else, an unsettling realization that she had chosen to prioritize her desires over our commitment. The thought made my stomach churn. I had always believed that love was a choice, a conscious decision to stand by one another through thick and thin. But now, it felt like she had chosen to abandon that choice for fleeting moments of pleasure. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I need time to think," I said finally, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "I can't process this right now." With that, I turned away from her, needing to escape the suffocating atmosphere of our home. I stepped outside, the cool air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. I walked aimlessly down the street, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and humiliation. I felt like a ghost, drifting through a world that had suddenly become foreign to me. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling of anger that simmered beneath the surface. I had been wronged, and I couldn't just let it go. I needed to confront this head-on, to find a way to reclaim my dignity. But how? What could I do to make her understand the depth of her betrayal? The question swirled in my mind, and as I continued to walk, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I wouldn't let this define me. I wouldn't let her actions dictate my worth. I would find a way to turn this pain into something powerful, something that would ensure she understood the consequences of her choices. The days that followed my discovery felt like a blur, a chaotic whirlwind of emotions and thoughts that left me reeling. I had retreated into myself, avoiding Sarah as much as possible. Each time I saw her, I was reminded of the betrayal, the laughter she had shared with another man, and the public humiliation that loomed over me like a dark cloud. But the worst part was yet to come, the moment when the world outside our home would react to the news. It was a Friday evening when I decided to meet up with a few friends at our usual bar. I needed to escape the suffocating atmosphere at home, to find some semblance of normalcy amidst the chaos. As I walked into the dimly lit space, the familiar sounds of laughter and clinking glasses greeted me. I spotted my friends gathered around a table, their faces lighting up as they saw me. "Hey, man. You made it," Jake called out, raising his beer in a toast. I forced a smile, but inside, I felt like a fraud. I was the husband whose wife had betrayed him, and I could already sense the undercurrents of sympathy and pity that would soon wash over me. As I joined them, the conversation flowed easily at first, a welcome distraction from my turmoil. We talked about sports, work, and the latest movies, but I could feel the tension building beneath the surface. I knew they had seen Sarah's posts. I could see it in their eyes, the way they glanced at me, waiting for the moment when I would break the silence. It didn't take long. After a few rounds of drinks, Jake leaned in, his expression shifting to one of concern. "So, how are you holding up, man? We saw Sarah's posts, that's rough." The words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken judgment. I felt my stomach twist, and I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "Yeah, it's been a tough week," I replied, my voice strained. I could feel the weight of their gazes, the pity that dripped from their words. "Do you want to talk about it?" Lisa, one of my closest friends, asked gently. I appreciated her concern, but I wasn't ready to share the depths of my pain. Instead, I shrugged, forcing a casual tone. "Not really. Just trying to figure things out." But the truth was, I was drowning in a sea of emotions. I felt exposed, like a character in a reality show, my life laid bare for everyone to scrutinize. I could already imagine the conversations happening behind my back, the whispers of "Did you hear about him?" and "Poor guy, what a shame." As the night wore on, the topic of Sarah's infidelity lingered like a dark shadow. I could see my friends exchanging glances, unsure of how to navigate the conversation. I felt like a pariah, the husband who had been publicly humiliated, and I hated every second of it. "Look, man," Jake said, trying to lighten the mood. "You know we've got your back, right? If you need anything, just let us know." I nodded, grateful for their support, but it felt hollow. I wanted to scream that I didn't need their pity, that I was more than just the husband of a cheating wife. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I forced a smile and raised my glass, trying to drown my sorrows in alcohol and laughter. As the night progressed, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I could see other patrons glancing our way, their eyes flickering with curiosity and judgment. I felt like a specimen under a microscope, my pain on display for everyone to see. The laughter around me felt distant, like a cruel reminder of the joy I had lost. When I finally left the bar, the cool night air hit me like a slap in the face. I walked home, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and humiliation. I replayed the conversations in my head, the way my friends had tried to support me but had only succeeded in highlighting my pain. I felt like I was trapped in a nightmare, unable to escape the reality of my situation. As I approached our home, I hesitated at the door. I could hear Sarah moving around inside, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence. I felt a surge of anger rise within me. How could she go about her life as if nothing had happened? How could she be so callous, so indifferent to the pain she had caused? I opened the door and stepped inside, the familiar scent of our home hitting me like a wave. But it felt different now, tainted by the betrayal that lingered in the air. I found Sarah sitting on the couch, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as I entered, her expression a mix of hope and fear. "Hey," she said softly, her voice trembling. "I've been thinking about what happened. I want to talk." I felt a surge of frustration. "Talk? What's there to talk about, Sarah? You've already made your choice." Her face fell, and I could see the hurt in her eyes. But I didn't care. I was tired of being the one who had to bear the weight of her actions. I wanted her to understand the depth of my pain, the humiliation I felt as I faced the world outside. I want to explain, she pleaded. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could keep it a secret. Keep it a secret? I shot back, my voice rising. You posted it for everyone to see. You didn't think about me, about how this would affect our lives. You didn't think about the public humiliation I would have to face. The anger bubbled over, and I felt the tears prick at my eyes. I was furious, not just at her but at the situation we found ourselves in. I had trusted her, believed in our love, and now it felt like everything was crumbling around me. As I stood there, the weight of my emotions crashing down on me, I realized that this was just the beginning. The public reaction had only scratched the surface of the pain I would have to endure. I would have to confront not only Sarah but also the world that had witnessed her betrayal. And somehow, I would have to find a way to reclaim my dignity amidst the chaos. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. I stood there, my heart racing, my mind a storm of conflicting emotions. Sarah sat on the couch, her eyes pleading, but I felt no sympathy. The betrayal was too fresh, too raw. I had trusted her, and now that trust lay shattered at my feet. Explain? I echoed, my voice dripping with disbelief. What is there to explain? You chose to betray me, to flaunt it for the world to see. You made a mockery of our marriage, Sarah. Her face crumpled, and I could see the tears welling in her eyes. I know I messed up. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. It was a mistake, a moment of weakness. A moment of weakness? I spat, my anger boiling over. You think that's all it was? You think that justifies what you did? You didn't just slip up, you made a conscious choice to be with someone else. You chose to share your life with him instead of me. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. I wanted to scream, to shake her and make her understand the depth of my pain. But instead, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. I was done being the victim. I needed to confront her, to make her see the consequences of her actions. Do you even realize how humiliating this is for me? I continued, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. I have to face our friends, our family, and everyone else who saw those posts. They're going to look at me with pity, with judgment. I'm the husband who was cheated on, the one who couldn't keep his wife happy enough to stay faithful. Sarah's face fell, and I could see the guilt etched across her features. I never wanted you to feel that way. I didn't think about how it would affect you. I was selfish. Selfish? I repeated, incredulous. That's an understatement. You didn't just think about yourself, you thought about how to keep your secret while enjoying the thrill of being with someone else. You didn't care about the vows we took, the life we built together. I took a step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. You need to understand that this isn't just about you and your feelings. This is about the damage you've done to our relationship, to my trust in you. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. Her eyes filled with tears, and she reached out as if to touch me, but I stepped back, instinctively recoiling from her. Don't, I said, my voice firm. You've lost that privilege. You've broken something that can't be easily repaired. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the clock ticking in the background, each second a reminder of the reality we were facing. I felt a mix of anger and sadness, a whirlwind of emotions that left me feeling drained. I had never imagined that our love could be so easily shattered, that the woman I had devoted my life to could betray me so completely. Please, just let me explain, Sarah pleaded, her voice trembling. I never meant for it to go this far. I thought I could keep it under control. I thought I could have both, my life with you and this fling. Fling? I scoffed, the word tasting bitter on my tongue. You call it a fling? You were posting pictures, sharing moments, making memories with him while I was here, oblivious to your betrayal. You didn't think about me at all. I know, she said, her voice breaking. I was wrong. I was stupid. I thought I could have fun without hurting you. I thought you wouldn't find out. The anger surged within me again, and I felt my fists clench at my sides. You thought wrong, Sarah. You thought you could play with fire without getting burned. But now, we're both getting burned, and I don't know if I can forgive you. I turned away, needing to escape the intensity of the moment. I walked to the window, staring out into the darkness of the night. The world outside felt so distant, so removed from the chaos that was unfolding in our home. I could see the stars twinkling above, a reminder that life continued, even as my own felt like it was unraveling. Please, Sarah's voice broke through my thoughts, and I turned back to face her. I love you. I made a terrible mistake, and I want to make it right. I'll do anything to fix this. The words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of something, hope, perhaps. But it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of what she had done. Love isn't just a word, Sarah. It's an action, a commitment. You've shown me that your love can be easily swayed, that you can throw it away for a moment of excitement. I know I've hurt you, she said, her voice pleading. But I want to prove to you that I can change. I can be better. I'll go to counseling, I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I shook my head, feeling the weight of her words but unsure if I could believe them. You can't just fix this with promises. Trust is built over time, and you've shattered mine in an instant. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way again. The tears streamed down her face, and I felt a pang of sympathy, but it was quickly drowned out by the anger and betrayal that coursed through me. I wanted to believe her, to find a way to forgive her, but the pain was too fresh, too raw. I need time, I said finally, my voice steady. I can't make any decisions right now. I need to figure out what I want, what I need. With that, I turned away from her, needing to escape the suffocating atmosphere of our home once more. I stepped outside, the cool night air hitting me like a splash of cold water. I walked aimlessly down the street, my mind racing with thoughts of betrayal and anger. As I walked, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I wouldn't let this define me. I wouldn't let her actions dictate my worth. I would find a way to reclaim my dignity, to confront the world that had witnessed her betrayal. But how? What could I do to make her understand the depth of her betrayal? The questions swirled in my mind, and as I continued to walk, I felt a sense of clarity begin to form. I would not be a victim in this story. I would take control of my narrative, and somehow, I would make her understand the consequences of her choices. The days turned into weeks, and the weight of Sarah's betrayal hung over me like a dark cloud, refusing to dissipate. I had taken time away from our home, staying with a friend while I tried to process everything. Each morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach, the reality of my situation crashing down on me like a wave. I felt like I was living in a surreal nightmare, where the woman I loved had become a stranger, and my life had been turned upside down. During those weeks, I found myself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions, anger, sadness, confusion, and even moments of longing for the life we had shared. I missed the little things, the way Sarah would laugh at my jokes, the warmth of her embrace, the quiet moments we spent together. But those memories were now tainted by the knowledge of her infidelity, and I struggled to reconcile the two. I spent my days trying to distract myself, throwing myself into work and spending time with friends. But even in their company, I felt a sense of isolation. They were supportive, but I could see the pity in their eyes, the way they hesitated to bring up Sarah or the situation. I felt like a pariah, the husband who had been publicly humiliated, and I hated every second of it. One evening, I met up with Jake and Lisa at a local bar. As we sat around a table, sipping drinks and trying to engage in light conversation, I could feel the tension in the air. They were both aware of the elephant in the room, and I could sense their hesitation to bring it up. Finally, Jake broke the silence. "Hey, man, how are you holding up?" he asked, his voice gentle. I took a deep breath, trying to muster a smile. "I'm managing," I replied, my voice steady. "Just trying to figure things out." Lisa leaned in, her expression serious. "You know we're here for you, right? If you need to talk or anything." I appreciated their concern, but I wasn't ready to dive into the depths of my pain. "Thanks, I know. I just need some time." As the night wore on, I could feel the weight of their sympathy pressing down on me. I wanted to scream that I didn't need their pity, that I was more than just the husband of a cheating wife. But the words wouldn't come. Instead, I forced a smile and tried to engage in the conversation, but my heart wasn't in it. When I finally returned to my apartment, the silence felt deafening. I had avoided going back for as long as I could, but I knew I couldn't run forever. I needed to confront the reality of my situation, to face the remnants of the life we had built together. As I stepped inside, the familiar scent of our home hit me like a wave of nostalgia. I could see her things scattered around, the shoes by the door, the books on the coffee table, the framed pictures of us on the walls. Each item felt like a reminder of the love we had shared, now overshadowed by betrayal. I walked to the living room and sank onto the couch, staring at the empty space beside me. I could almost feel her presence, the warmth of her laughter echoing in my mind. But it was quickly replaced by the harsh reality of what she had done. I felt a surge of anger rise within me, and I knew I had to confront her again. The next day, I called Sarah and asked her to meet me at a nearby cafe. I needed to talk, to lay everything out on the table. As I arrived, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. I had spent so long avoiding this conversation, but I knew it was time to face the truth. When Sarah arrived, she looked nervous, her eyes darting around the cafe as if searching for an escape. I could see the tension in her posture, the way she fidgeted with her hands. "Hey," she said softly, taking a seat across from me. "Hey," I replied, my voice steady. "We need to talk." She nodded, her expression serious. "I know. I've been thinking a lot about everything, about us." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I've been doing a lot of thinking too. I need you to understand how deeply you've hurt me. This isn't just about what happened, it's about the trust that's been shattered." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I was stupid and selfish." "Stupid and selfish doesn't even begin to cover it," I replied, my voice firm. "You made a choice, Sarah. You chose to betray me, to share your life with someone else while I was here, oblivious to your actions. You didn't think about the consequences." Tears welled in her eyes, and I felt a pang of sympathy, but I quickly pushed it aside. "I need to know if you truly understand the gravity of what you've done. This isn't something that can be easily fixed with apologies. Trust takes time to rebuild, and right now, I don't know if I can ever trust you again." "I understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I know it's going to take time, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to earn your trust back. I'll go to counseling, I'll be open and honest with you. I want to make this right." I studied her face, searching for sincerity in her words. Part of me wanted to believe her, to find a way to forgive her, but the pain was still too fresh. "You say you want to make it right, but how can I be sure this won't happen again? How can I trust that you won't find another way to betray me?" "I can't promise that it will be easy," she said, her voice trembling. "But I want to show you that I can change. I love you, and I don't want to lose you." The words hung in the air, and I felt a flicker of hope, but it was quickly overshadowed by doubt. "Love isn't just a word, Sarah. It's an action, a commitment. You've shown me that your love can be easily swayed, that you can throw it away for a moment of excitement." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I was wrong. I'll do anything to prove to you that I can be better." As I sat there, I felt the weight of the decision before me. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the genuine remorse that lingered beneath the surface. But I also knew that healing would take time, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to take that leap of faith. "I need time," I said finally, my voice steady. "I can't make any decisions right now. I need to figure out what I want, what I need." With that, I stood up and walked away, leaving Sarah sitting at the cafe, tears streaming down her face. I felt a mix of sadness and determination as I stepped outside. I knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but I was ready to confront the aftermath of her betrayal and reclaim my dignity. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions, a tumultuous journey through the aftermath of Sarah's betrayal. I had taken the time I needed, but the weight of the situation still pressed heavily on my chest. I spent countless nights lying awake, wrestling with my thoughts, trying to find clarity amidst the chaos. The pain of her infidelity lingered like a shadow, but I was determined to confront it head-on. I had decided to seek counseling, both individually and as a couple. I knew that if there was any chance of salvaging our relationship, we needed to address the underlying issues that had led to her betrayal. The first few sessions were excruciating. Each time we sat across from the therapist, I felt the walls closing in, the memories of her infidelity flooding my mind. But slowly, I began to open up, to share my feelings of anger, betrayal, and confusion. Sarah, too, was forced to confront her actions. She spoke about her motivations, her insecurities, and the reasons that had led her to seek validation outside our marriage. It was painful to hear, but I could see the sincerity in her eyes. She was genuinely remorseful, and for the first time, I felt a flicker of hope that perhaps we could rebuild what had been broken. As the weeks turned into months, I began to notice subtle changes in Sarah. She was more attentive, more present. She made an effort to communicate openly, to share her feelings and fears. I could see her trying to earn back my trust, and while it was a slow process, I appreciated her efforts. But the road to healing was not linear. There were days when I felt overwhelmed by anger and sadness, and I would retreat into myself, needing space to process my emotions. One evening, after a particularly difficult therapy session, I found myself sitting on the couch, staring at the framed pictures of us on the wall. I felt a wave of nostalgia wash over me, a longing for the love we had once shared. But I also felt a sense of determination. I was not the same person I had been before her betrayal. I had grown stronger, more resilient, and I was ready to reclaim my life. "Sarah," I called out, my voice steady. She emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "Can we talk?" "Of course," she replied, her expression serious. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "I've been doing a lot of thinking about us, about what we want moving forward." Her eyes widened, and I could see the hope flickering in her gaze. "What do you mean?" "I want to try," I said, my voice firm. "I want to work on our relationship, but it's going to take time. I need you to understand that trust is not something that can be rebuilt overnight. It's going to take consistent effort from both of us." "I understand," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I love you, and I want to make this work." I nodded, feeling a mix of hope and apprehension. "I love you too, but I need to set some boundaries. I need to know that you're committed to this, that you're willing to put in the work to rebuild what we've lost." "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes earnest. "I'll do anything you need." As we talked, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. We were finally addressing the issues head-on, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope for our future. It wouldn't be easy, but I was willing to fight for our love. Over the next few months, we continued to attend therapy together, working through our issues and learning to communicate more effectively. We set aside time for each other, rediscovering the joy in our relationship. We went on dates, took weekend trips, and made an effort to reconnect on a deeper level. It was a slow process, but with each passing day, I felt the walls around my heart begin to crumble. I also focused on my own healing. I started journaling, pouring my thoughts and feelings onto the pages. I sought support from friends and family, sharing my journey with those I trusted. I learned to embrace my emotions, to acknowledge the pain while also allowing myself to feel joy and hope for the future. As the months turned into a year, I began to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Sarah and I had made significant progress, and while the scars of her betrayal would always remain, I felt a renewed sense of trust and love between us. We had both grown, both learned valuable lessons about ourselves and our relationship. One evening, as we sat on the couch together, I turned to her, my heart full. I know we've been through a lot, but I want you to know that I see the effort you're putting in. I appreciate everything you've done to rebuild our relationship." Tears filled her eyes, and she smiled through them. "Thank you. I know I hurt you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make it right." I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers. "We're in this together, and I believe we can come out stronger on the other side." As we sat there, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The journey had been painful, but it had also been transformative. I had learned about love, trust, and resilience. I had learned that even in the darkest moments, there is always a glimmer of hope. In that moment, I realized that while Sarah's betrayal had changed me, it had also brought us closer together. We had faced the storm and emerged on the other side, ready to embrace the future with open hearts. And as I looked into her eyes, I knew that we were ready to write the next chapter of our story, one filled with love, trust, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow.